Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Five Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard, and let's get into some Week 13 Big Ten wrap up. And let's start off Friday night. Michigan State at home, bad weather, under the lights, hosting a then 1-9 Purdue team. Michigan State sitting there having to win this game in order to keep any type of bowl eligibility there. Jumped out to an early start, and the guys, it really looked like Michigan State had found their mojo. Purdue was the get-right game. You knew they were going to beat Purdue, and when they go in at halftime and score, when Carter gets his second touchdown, you're thinking, man, it's 24-3. Michigan State's going to roll. This is exactly the kind of victory that Jonathan Smith needed for the fan base because, let's face it, a lot of people are wondering what kind of fans would be showing up in, weather that ended up being kind of misty, rainy. It wasn't like heavy down torrential rain, but it was chilly out there with the mist coming down with, MSU with 4-5. Like I said, Purdue at 1-9. Who was going to show up? And honestly, I was kind of surprised because there was over 50,000 people there at the max in the heyday of that evening. Now, at halftime, a lot of people left. As I said, it was cold. The weather was starting to turn, and MSU was up 24-3. Go home. Easy peasy, right? Wrong. Because once again, for 9 out of, 11 times this season, Michigan State gets outscored by their opponent in the second half. I don't know what Jonathan Smith and his staff does at halftime. I don't know what message that they give to the team, but let me give you a piece of advice. Stop, change it, do the opposite, do the George Costanza, because second halves for Michigan State have been abysmal. If they don't get the points in the first half, they're not probably going to get that many in the second half. That's where teams constantly keep coming back. I can't say they have a problem finishing games. They have a problem finishing out the second half of games, and that's what makes it so problematic. They escape. Let's face it, Purdue. They shut down the Purdue run game, but oh my goodness, Purdue was able to pass the ball on MSU all night long. And, Hudson Card, almost 350 yards passing. Like I said, now rushing-wise, man, they held them to negative rushing yards. But if it wasn't for the wide receiver late in the game, got behind the MSU secondary, he drops a game-tying touchdown pass. I don't know where this thing would have gone into overtime. It was like Michigan State's offense just came to a grinding halt, and they could not figure it out at all. I'm not going to say they got lucky, but they were very fortunate. And I guess if you're a Spartan fan, you'd rather have a close victory than a almost win. They got the win. They're now sitting there, and they're 5-6, and it all boils down to what happens at home senior day against Rutgers. You win, you get to go bowling. You lose, your season is done, and I don't think a lot of Spartan fans are going to be happy about that. Jonathan Smith, they got time to right this ship. You'll go to one of the meaningless bowl games, but you get the bowl game, you get the extra practices for a young team. You got to hope that that's what you can do. Let's talk about the team they're going to be playing, and that was Rutgers. And Rutgers played probably one of the most exciting games. Yeah, ironically enough, both games were on Peacock. Illinois and Rutgers go back and forth. It looks as if Rutgers is about to knock out the Illini. The Illini come back. Luke Altmaier leads the team back. And then it comes down to a fourth down play. And Illinois lines up to kick this long field goal. I think it was like 50-some plus yards. And as he goes to kick it, Rutgers calls timeout. Timeout. And he misses it. If he doesn't call the timeout, Rutgers wins the game. Bielema realizes, well, you know what? To hell with it. Put my offense back on there. And on the 4th and 6th play, Altmaier not only gets the first down to Pat Bryant, but they've sent a all-out blitz to try to just sack Altmaier right there, and the blitz missed, and it allowed Brian to weave his way through the Rutgers secondary and score with 6 seconds left as Illinois steals the game from Rutgers. So if you didn't see it, make sure you watch it on the BTN and 60. Very entertaining game. Also, a couple other games I want to get to talking about. Ohio State showed that, hey, they want the rematch with Oregon. Indiana came in. They were undefeated, but everybody questioned how good is Indiana. They played Michigan a few weeks ago, and they didn't look that spectacular. They got the win, but they played a hapless Michigan team at home, and you kind of saw some chinks in the armor of maybe this team isn't going to be the team that we thought that they are going to be. They got a chance to really show up to Columbus and quiet all the critics. If you win that game in Columbus, if you beat the Ohio State at the Horseshoe, nobody can say anything about you, because right now Indiana's going to be in the college football playoffs, the 12-team playoff. But a lot of people are questioning whether they deserve it or not, based because they have one of the weakest schedules. Their schedule is ranked like in the hundreds, not top 50. They're in the bottom of the NCAA. They go into Columbus and they score first. And it's funny because the game kind of mirrored the Michigan State-Indiana game, where Michigan State scored first and then Indiana just laid the hammer. Indiana scores on the first drive. That was it. Lights out. Good night, Irene. Ohio State and Will Howard just imposed their will. Indiana was never in this game. Never in this game. As a matter of fact, the score doesn't even do it damage because Indiana scored a touchdown, 2-point conversion late to make it 38-15. But trust me when I say, the Ohio State pass rush was there, sack after sack. Like, Ohio State looked like one of the best teams. You see now why they are the Vegas betting odds to win the whole thing. And Indiana, they looked a little fraudulent. I'll just say that. They'll make the playoffs because there was so much chaos in college football that a lot of the SEC teams like Alabama eliminated themselves. Ole Miss eliminated themselves. Colorado in the Big 12 eliminated themselves. So a lot of teams that you thought, okay, maybe they could, no, they're not going to be there. They're going to get there. Don't know if they're going to be playing a game in Bloomington or if they have to go on the road. But Indiana will get a chance to kind of show everybody they are not the frauds that people think that they are. Ohio State pretty much locked up going to the Big Ten title game in Indianapolis. Oregon is already guaranteed to be there. Ohio State just has to play Michigan. They beat Michigan, which it looks like Vegas is saying they're a 20.5-point favorite. It should happen. They're going to have the rematch game against Oregon in Indianapolis, a game that I think will be highly anticipated. Michigan closed out their senior night. Oh, and props to Michigan, because in the end, let's just say that they lose to Ohio State. I don't think Michigan fans are going to remember this season at all for Sharon Moore going 6-6. They're going to remember this season because Sharon Moore was able to flip Bryce Underwood, the Bellevue quarterback, number one quarterback in the nation, from his LSU commitment to the University of Michigan commitment. Hey, man, money talks. Michigan ponied up a ton of money. Bryce Underwood kept saying, no. Wait, how much? Go blue. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to be a Wolverine. So, hey, Sharon Moore was persistent. He found the price. He has his quarterback, hopefully for the next couple of years, and Bryce Underwood. You've seen reports that Michigan was willing to pay him up to $10.5 million. I've heard that it may even have exceeded that. So they got their guy. That's what Sharon Moore in Michigan season is going to be remembered. Everything that happened before then and everything that may happen on Saturday will be forgotten about because all you care about is getting Bryce Underwood there. Now, back to the senior day game for Michigan. They played Northwestern. Seniors went out, and the guys going to the NFL went out with a bang. This thing over with quickly. They look like the Michigan team that a lot of people thought Michigan was going to look like all season long. They put up a 50-burger, 50 30-6 over Northwestern. And yeah, that score looks indicative of how the game went. Michigan had their way. They could do whatever they wanted to do. They were passing the ball. They were just doing everything. And now they're going to be preparing to play the Buckeyes, the game, 12 o'clock on Saturday. So a few games just to talk about in wrapping up the Big Ten. Plus, Nebraska, now bowl eligible. They beat up a Wisconsin team that I don't really know what's going on with Wisconsin. I thought Wisconsin was going to be a really good team. They are just crashing and burning at the end of the season. Not a good look. And then Iowa goes into Maryland, beats them 29-13. And if you didn't stay up late on Saturday, USC defeated UCLA 19-13. All right, we'll be back later on in the week to break down and preview some of the games coming up for Week 14, the final regular season week of the Big Ten, including, I guess, the biggest game will be Michigan-Ohio State. There'll be a couple games on Friday. So going to try to get this schedule set up with Harold. We'll probably do it maybe either Tuesday or Wednesday night. But we'll be back. We'll make sure we preview these games for you. But for now, thanks for watching. Keep liking and subscribing. You're watching the 5 Star Zone.